Thank you. The chair now recognizes Mr. Flamengo for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been listening very closely, not only for the most eloquent statements from my colleague, the gentlelady from Guam, Ms. Bordallo, but also the statements made by our witnesses this morning, Governor Calvo, Mr. Pula, Mr. DeMarco, and my good friend, Brigadier General Blas, a former member of this great institution. Mr. Chairman, it's like a broken record for the past 65 years since we've been discussing this issue before the Congress. A broken record to the fact that 5 times this bill has passed this House, and for some reason or another, somehow we cannot seem to persuade our colleagues in the other body to do the right thing in giving the proper compensation for these people who suffered so much. And I do appreciate your concerns of the fact that we have some very trying period in our country's situation, economic situation, with the deficit and the some $14.5 trillion national debt that we're faced with. Mr. Chairman, there are some historical aspects that I want to share with you. In my understanding, formerly not only as a Vietnam veteran, but someone who's lived in Guam, and with a real deep respect and love for the Chamorro people and understanding their concerns and what they were confronted with. In the first place, before the Japanese attack on Guam in 1941, Mr. Chairman, it was a very unusual situation on the part of our government because these people were U.S. nationals. And somehow our military leadership decided not to take the people off the island of Guam before the invasion by the Japanese. Is it because they were not U.S. citizens, but they are U.S. nationals? And as U.S. nationals, according to the immigration laws, is defined as any person who owes permanent allegiance to the United States. And this is another quick of history, Mr. Chairman, in wanting to know why these U.S. nationals were never evacuated before the invasion of the Japanese forces in Guam in 1941. That still remains to be a question, why this was done. Is it because they're not U.S. citizens? But I have just defined what a U.S. national is according to our own immigration law. Mr. Chairman, I don't know what Heritage Foundation, I have not received a copy of the letter from Heritage Foundation. If they raise objections to the substance of this bill, I just want to say that I do have a high respect for the Heritage Foundation, for its conservative positions and issues that we discussed here nationally. But this one instance, Mr. Chairman, I cannot believe that the Heritage Foundation questions the validity of this proposed bill. Now, there's some questions raised about, well, where are we going to get the money? Somehow we are able to find $10 billion for the relocation of some 9,000 Marines and their dependents in the coming years. And part of the funding of some $5 to $6 billion is going to come from the Japanese government. And I wonder in that respect, Mr. Chairman, that maybe this is the part we ought to look at seriously and providing a compensation as part of the $16 billion transfer. If we can do it for 9,000 Marines and their dependents, then I'm certainly, I cannot believe that we cannot find funding as part of this $16 billion transfer. I do want to offer that recommendation strongly, since Japan is also paying part of this transfer at $5 to $6 billion. I'm glad to yield to my good friend.
If I may, I think that's a great point. But if I could clear up the air here on this Heritage Foundation letter that seems to have created some firestorm. I'll tell you how I feel. And that's why I'm here, is to ask these questions and to understand. And you're right, Guam is a distance away from the mainland. At this particular time, in this particular Congress, with the financial situation that we're in, it is a very, very sensitive subject. And it's hard because it's personal to people like the General. But those finances are just as personal to the U.S. taxpayer as well. And I'm sure, Governor, that the United States government and these Congresses have appropriated millions, maybe tens of, maybe hundreds of $millions over the last 50 somewhat odd years in support of infrastructure and things of Guam. I want you to know that I believe in supporting the territories of this country. I was in Puerto Rico not too long ago and telling someone I think it's a great place. I don't know why it's not a great vacation place for a lot of people in the United States. It's a great place. It's beautiful. I would look forward to going to Guam. I enjoy visiting those islands. I would like to support them economically. The tension here is a matter of cost of where we are financially in this country. So understand that is why I chose these issues. It was not to slight anyone from a personal standpoint, but I think a lot of U.S. taxpayers out there are asking those particular questions. But I think you raise a great point of where we could get the money from.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to thank you, and I never to question your sincerity in wanting to reach out and trying to understand where can we possibly get the proper funding. It's of interest too, Mr. Chairman, that and I really don't believe it's the money. It's the principle, Mr. Chairman. I think that's all the Chamorro people are asking for as loyal citizens of this great nation of ours. Let me just say, Guam is the most important military and strategic island that we have in that whole region of the Asia Pacific. And let me just share this another point with my good chairman. When I first came here 20 years ago, as a member of this great institution, as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I wanted to be on the Asia Pacific Committee. Becoming a member of that subcommittee, nobody wanted to be on the Asia Pacific Subcommittee on Foreign Affairs. You know why? Because the whole mentality here in Washington was on Europe and the Middle East. The Asia Pacific region was not even on the radar screen. If it was, we were not bashing the Japanese, we were bashing the Chinese. It was never a positive experience and understanding. Now, the Asia Pacific region, we've got to pay better attention, and our relationship with this area, which is almost 60% of the world's entire population, and Guam is part of that. And I realize my time is over, but I do want to share this with the chairman. I cannot have a better witness as someone whom I've always considered not only as a father figure, but as a military veteran himself, and for someone who I have my utmost respect as a retired brigadier general of the United States Marine Corps. And I will never forget the words that he shared with this institution in terms of how we have treated people from the islands. And this is what he said. This is what my good friend General Blas said. And I will never forget what he said. We are equal in war, but not in peace. So it's okay for people from the islands to get their guts spilled and killed and all of the battles and the things that we volunteered to be part of our defense system. But when it comes to situations where we're giving proper account for what the good people of Guam is asking for, and as some of our witnesses said, and I'm sure my good chairman will agree with, this is a moral obligation that our government has towards these people. And I cannot think of a higher standard than we would have to suggest that if we do otherwise, then I think we fail as a nation to do what we should be doing in honoring the sacrifices that the Chamorro people have made on behalf of our country. On behalf of our country. And never once did they ever fail to prove their loyalty and their absolute convictions that this is a great country, but they just feel like they're not being just treated fairly. I think that's the bottom line, Mr. Chairman. I know my time is up, and I can, and I just want to say that I have 100 more questions I wanted to raise here, but I know time is up, and hopefully maybe we'll wait for the second round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I was just informed that they need this room for another meeting that's coming up. I find that there's another hearing, so we won't be able to have a second round. So I thank the gentleman for his comments, and I would like to thank the panel again for their valuable testimony and contributions. Members of the subcommittee may have additional questions for the witnesses, and we ask that you respond to these in writing. The hearing record will be open for 10 business days to receive your responses. Finally, again, I'd like to thank the members and the staff for their contributions to this hearing. And if there are no further business, without objection, this subcommittee will stand adjourned.